Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Last month, the U.S. Army quietly raised its enlistment age to 42, not an arbitrary number. And it's a reminder that in World War II, the U.S. first deployed troops to the World War at the start of 1942. Of course, the end of 1941, Pearl Harbor happened, which is what got people involved in the war. And imagine should another false flag happen. But the thing about 42, again, it gains its significance when you learn the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words known as gematria or gematria. It's as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. And as we've talked about for, the entire time I've learned this knowledge, Iran equates to 42 like war, and Iran's been held over the U.S. people's heads since 9/11 as this militaristic threat that the U.S. needs to do something about. And now here we are in 2026. And again, to get these values, there are 4 base ciphers of the English language, the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z is 26. The reverse alphabetic order, Z is 1, back to A is 26, in both orders with numerology applied. If you add up the letters of Iran, just using the alphabetic order, I would be the 9th letter, R the 18th, A the 1st, N the 14th. It equates to 42, just like war. W the 23rd letter, A the 1st, R the 18th, war, 42. And don't forget, this war began on the 8th anniversary of the temple coin coming out with Trump's face on it, being used to raise funds to build the third temple. 8 is the third composite number. On the 8th anniversary, this war began February 28th. That was 42 days after the anniversary of Dwight D. Eisenhower's military-industrial complex speech. And the day that they raised the enlistment age was March 20th. That was the day that the enlistment age was raised, March 20th. Notice that was the 21st day of the war. And as I always educate about, the Jesuits are responsible for the English language, the calendar, the capital of the United States being in Washington, D.C., the education of the current president and the last, and on and on and on. The Jesuits are this hidden hand pretty much controlling all things that goes on in this nation, especially, as well as in a lot of the world. The Jesuits have a lot to do with the world wars and, of course, the SS and Small Mustache Man and all that. And by the way, speaking of Small Mustache Man, they did this on March 20th. They raised the enlistment age to 42. But it doesn't become effective until Hitler's birthday on April 20th. Yeah, April 20th, Hitler's birthday, the man World War II is centered on, that's the day it's going to go to 42. Okay? And again, the SS was modeled after the Jesuits. But notice, on the 21st day of the war, they make this change effective April 20th. Jesuit equates to 21, and when you run it in reverse, 42. Now, consider we went into World War II in 1942. That was 84 years ago. This war is centered on political Zionism, like Albert Pike's his letter about 3 world wars to come, dated August 15th, 1871, which is the Jesuit order's birthday. The Jesuits were created August 15th, 1534. Been talking about this since Netanyahu came back. But yeah, the third war is to be centered on political Zionism. 1942 was 84 years ago. Zionism equates to 42 and 84. Keep in mind, March 20th, 2026, the day they changed the policy, was a date with 69 numerology. Notice how the Jesuit order is 69 and 84. The Jesuits pride themselves on being the driving force of globalization. New World Order equals 64, so does Catholic Church. But yeah, the 84 thing, remember, it's a big one. United States of America equals 84, as does Superior General, as does Jesuit. All of these words are 84. The leader of the Jesuits is the Superior General. Remember, the leader of the current U.S. military is Pete Hegseth, who was nominated to be the Secretary of Defense on the Superior General's birthday. That was November 12th, 2024. Jesuit-educated Trump picked Hegseth on the Superior General's birthday. You can see that all of this ritualism is highly Jesuit. If you've missed my other work on this war and what we did in Venezuela, where the Superior General's from, it's all been synced with he, who is Arturo Sosa. By the way, this just happened, this very Jesuit ritual, Trump and Hegseth getting the head of the army to step down. This just happened on 4/2, like 42. This was in the news yesterday. And what's interesting, he was the 41st Chief of Staff of the United States Army until his resignation. That means on 4/2, his replacement comes in, who will become the 42nd. So just for another 42 ritual going on right now. The 41st steps down on 4/2 and is replaced by, the man below him, who now becomes the 42nd. And if you're new here, Jesuit order equals 153, as does Holy Bible. And 42 is pretty big in the Bible as well, from Matthew 1:1, where it begins with the 42 generations to Jesus, up through Revelation, where you get the beast ruling for 42 months. Don't forget, New Testament equals 42 like math. We're talking about the Society of Jesus, who are responsible for the numbered Bibles as we know them, the English alphabet as we know it, the calendar, who've synced up this system. Now, remember, March 20th, the day they did this, it was a fateful day. It was the day that you had Robert Mueller die. Robert Mueller equals 187 and 79, like Society of Jesus. He died 187 days after the Pope's birthday on the 79th day of the year, which is March 20th. The Ready or Not movie came out with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and her co-star from Buffy, who had the 187 and 79 connection, died that day. Not to mention Ready or Not's about a game of murder by the elite. But yeah, 187 is the homicide code. But yeah, they made this change 187 days after the Pope's birthday. And think about the word soldier, right? Sol, S-O-L, root word of sun. The Catholic Church venerates the sun, just like the Jesuit logo is the sun. Sol, die, R. R is the 18th letter. Dying under the sun at age 18, as many soldiers have done. Some will be 42. But yeah, 187 days after the Pope's birthday, on the 79th day of the year, they made this change. And if you haven't been following my work, there's been a lot of 79 ritualism with everything going on in Iran. Keep in mind, the revolution in Iran was in 79. And this change also came on the 129th day of the Superior General's age. 201 and 129 are mathematically related. 129 is 201 in base 8 counting. Again, a military personnel file is a 201 file. It's another number that has a lot to do with the Jesuits and military history. Keep in mind, Georgetown is 129, the first Jesuit university established right before George Washington, the Masonic war general, was installed as the first president. March 20th, the day they did this, 320, like Roman Catholic Church 320. And again, the age 42 change will become effective April 20th, which means I'm eligible to enlist. I'm 42 right now. Part of me wants to get some sniper skills. If you can read the rest of my thoughts, you might understand why. I might have to talk to a sweet lady. Anyway, don't forget, they say Adolf offed himself at 56, and you can see his connection with Society of Jesus as well, 56 and 187. So 187 days after the Pope's birthday, back in the time of World War II, the Pope turned a blind eye to a small mustache man and his crew. Now this, all these years later. Don't forget the other year when we sent all that money to Israel and Ukraine, because Ukraine's where ancient Khazari is, where most of these people's bloodlines trace to that are in Israel today. But don't forget that Congress passed all that money for those two nations on Small Mustache Man's birthday anniversary, April 20th, and then a few days later, Biden signed off on it, which was 201 days into the war. And by the way, 129, again, 201 in base 8 counting, State of Israel equates to 201 like the Jesuit order. Netanyahu came back on 1229, 1229 is the 201st prime, and so on and so forth. He also stepped down from power when he left momentarily on June 13th, the day leaving 201 days left in the year, which is the anniversary of the U.S. military creating its propaganda department back in the time of World War II. But yeah, enlistment age 42. Again, there's a lot to that 42 number. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and beyond, but here's where it fits in with all this war stuff and what's been foreshadowed since the day Netanyahu came back into power, which I called out that very day. Anyone can still go back and watch my video from December 29, 2022. Again, I said that day, just watch, right about the time Yale turns 322 years old, they're going to start a major, significant war. October 7th was 2 days before Israel turned 322 back in 2023. We'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. And until next time.